And it took a lot to be able to get that money back in there just to do it again. But I didn't lose hope. I was cussing and ranting and raving the whole time I had to do it, wanting to quit the extra job I was working. But I knew unless I did this, nothing's going to change. Nothing is going to change unless you put your feet to the ground and say, I'm digging my heels in. I know it's going to be hard. I know I'm going to have pushback. I know it's going to be requiring me to put time into it. When all my friends are out there running around and clubbing and doing this and chasing tail and doing this and doing that and drinking and having fun on the weekends, no, I'm going to be in these charts studying. I'm going to be living my life differently. But they're still going to be out there trying to chase tail, broke as fuck, driving a beater fucking car, and ain't doing shit in their life. And you'll be able to pull down annual fucking salaries on a week. You can't even imagine where you're going to be. You can't even imagine it. Whatever you think is your level of success, it's not big enough. It's not big enough. You have no idea when you strip all these limitations that you put on yourself. You shackle yourself with your own mindset. You do it. This is all I can see myself doing right now. When you start making $100,000 a year, you start thinking to yourself, oh shit, that wasn't all that hard. I thought it was really hard. Well, now I'm going to aim for $500,000. And the attempts that you do to do that, you get there in less than half the time. Then you start thinking, well, shit, they say the first $1 million is the hardest one. I'm about there. Boom, in a couple more months, and then you're there. Then you look back and say, $1 million isn't all that much money. And yeah, it took some effort, but it didn't take as much effort as I thought it was going to take. And then you start making 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, 50 million. And I know I'm talking in numbers none of you can fucking comprehend, but it is what it is, folks. It's just math. It's just math. You're compounding the efforts of what you're able to do on the smallest form. And watch it. That's teaching you patience. You don't have that. When you first start, you don't have patience because you're trying to chase the lead dog. Whether it be me, somebody else that's saying they're making money, someone else is doing something on a live stream, someone else is doing signal service, someone else is doing whatever. You're constantly trying to run. When it's better for you in the beginning to learn to sit still, observe. How are you thinking about the marketplace? Do you feel like this insatiable desire that you got to be in there today? Like, come hell or high water, even if you only get 5 handles of the 30 handle run, if you just get a piece of it, at least you got something. You took a bite of the beast that you've been hunting. That's a hyena's approach. I don't trade like a hyena. I'm not out there cackling and making crazy noises and shit, trying to just get a bite of something. I'm out there literally stalking and waiting. And when I see the weak one in the herd, the Judas swing, to see the retail traders thinking that they got something that's easy money for them, if that's 100% diametrically opposed to what I'm anticipating in price, I'm running that fucker down. And I'm going home with a full belly. And I'm not second guessing it. I'm not worrying about what other people are doing, what they think's making the market go up or down, what the volume profile said, what volume node they're looking at, what point of control, what VWAP, what fucking supply and demand zone, what Elliott wave count is. I don't give a fuck about none of that stuff. I know exactly what I'm looking for. I'm not worried about anything else. I'm dialed in. I know exactly what I'm hunting. I got my eyes set on it, and I'm going to run it down. And I'm taking it home. That's not arrogance. That's not narcissism. That's absolutely defined as confidence, because I've been here enough times to know that what I'm doing works. I don't need to change it. I don't need to look at somebody else to help me make it better. I'm not looking at any retail logic because it's not even in there. I'm attacking that. I am an apex predator that is attacking the weakest form of trader in this industry at a time when they're making their actions known. Because whatever you can do with the least, if you have a measurable outcome that is more times than not delivered to you based on a model that you're working with, when you do that same procedure over and over again, just like a cookie cutter, you take it and you press it into the dough. Are you expecting a star-shaped cookie dough cutter to give you a shape of a circle or a square? No. It's designed to do one thing. You press it into the dough, you lift it up, there you have a piece of dough that's cut out in the form of a star. Wonderful. Are you trying to do something else outside of that? No. Your job is to find another place where you can find the dough, which is a trade setup, and you're going to press your cookie cutter, which is your mold, or your model rather, press it into that dough and pull it out. And you take home that star-shaped or whatever the shape of that cookie cutter is, whatever your model is, if it's the optimal trade entry, if it's the silver bullet, if it's, anything else. That's all you're there to do. And demanding it does anything more than that is foolishness. The results that you get from the least amount of leverage from that is irrelevant in the beginning, because you have to get to the point where you can replicate that over and over and over again, more times than not over the course of a month, over the course of a week. And taking that sample set and saying, okay, I have done this for a week, and this is the many transactions I've taken, this is how many that were profitable, this is how many times that were not profitable, this is how much I was able to yield as a net return. Over time, it'll become easier to do it. That's the goal. And you want it to be boring. You know, on Wednesday morning of next week, you're going to go out there and you're going to find 10 handles in S&P. You know you're going to find 30 handles in the NASDAQ. I know that. I absolutely fucking know I'm going to do that. I know I'm going to be able to do that. I can do that. I know tonight when I lay my head down that my thought is not going to be swirling around. Am I going to be able to trade next week? Am I going to be able to pull anything off? Am I going to be able to find a setup? It's a given. It's absolutely given. I'm not worried about that. That is confidence that you cannot appreciate until you have it. And most traders don't have it. Even if they are profitable, they still say that the market's random. It is random if you're believing the bullshit you're trying to trade off of. All these things that you're subscribing to as a religion. Elliott wave, Wyckoff, it's this, it's jumping the creek, it's this, this wave count. Man, if I had a trade like that, I would not be able to sleep at night. That's too many variables where I'm trading on constants. I know where the liquidity is. I know where the inefficiencies are. I know what the economic counter is going to produce a injection of volatility at a specific date and time. I'm not clueless. I'm not confused. I know exactly when I'm going to step my ass in there and tap dance all over this shit and moonwalk my ass out the door with a bounty. I'm going to do that anytime I fucking want. And when you learn how to do it, you'll do the same thing. It's confidence that you cannot appreciate until you have it. In the hands of weaker men and ladies, you'll be a prick like I was on American Online when I finally got it. I was an asshole. You think I'm an asshole now? No, I was bragging. I was really bragging all the time. I'm just spitting facts right now, and I'm bringing receipts every single day. But you don't want to accept it because you can't do it yet. And you think it should have happened to you because you watched a few videos, or you scribbled some bullshit on a notepad or a napkin at work, and you think that you've been journaling. That's not a real attempt at doing it. You're half-assing it. And if you're half-assing it, don't be surprised when you get half-assed results. When you make it your business, that this is your career, you are learning how to operate and run a business. What is it? You Incorporated. You Incorporated. These people will try to tear you down all the time. And the more success you have, the more success that you share, there are more of them going to come at you. Are you going to live your life worrying about what they're going to say about you? Fuck these people. They are losers. The fact that they're spending their time talking about you, they're fucking showing you they're losers. Nobody that has success spends any time talking about somebody else. Nobody does. Nobody has time talking about that shit. You keep your business minded by you. You mind your own business. Nobody else is going to mind it. You do it. And you stay out of everybody else's business. You keep your head in the charts. You keep building, understanding yourself, where you make mistakes. Where do you fear? What do you get anxious about? What do you get too overzealous about prematurely, or overconfident, because there's a real thing like that? Identify those things. They're going to help you prune that tree, that money tree that you're growing into a money tree. I'm a money making dynamo. I can walk out these fucking doors. I could lose everything. I could literally lose every fucking thing. And I could start with zero money in my fucking pocket. And in 12 months, be a multimillionaire again. Do you feel that confident about yourself? Because everything I talked about in this presentation today, it all leans on having one skill set. And that's hard. It's real hard if you don't know what you're doing and you're brand new, you have no experience, you've never been here before. Every little tiny fluctuation, one tick against your entry, feels like the beginning of a run on your stop. And that's not what it's like when you're thinking like I'm teaching you. I trust my model. If it goes to my stop, I placed my stop incorrectly, and I'm okay with that. I know the likelihood of my next trade is going to be just as well as the one I just entered. It's not diminishing. The efficacy of my models are not diminishing. They're constant. Your appreciation for those models and approaches are on the upslope. You're at the beginning of your journey, and I envy all of you. I envy all of you. I miss those moments of astonishment where I would see something and I'd like, okay, this is what it should do, and let's see what happens. And it delivers perfectly to the tick. And then you're looking around the room like, am I supposed to know this? Like you're expecting the black suits to show up in front of your house. A helicopter's landing in your backyard, like you're coming with us, you know? Those moments of astonishment are amazing. Those epiphanies, those moments where the veil is lifted and you see the market as it really is in binary form. You know, when Neo finally understands who he is and where he's at, he doesn't see the people in front of him throwing punches. It's just zeros and ones. And all he has to do is, this is what his response is going to be. And he knows what they're going to do before they do it. That's a macro. The idea is, in closing, you need to guard your mind. You need to do the very least in the beginning. Because if you can't get experience or growth or progress measured in any capacity with the least amount of exposure to risk, it matters not how much more risk you can accumulate. What's the difference is if you have 15 contracts on or if you have one micro lot on. If you're wrong about what you're trying to do in the marketplace, the market's going to show you. Do you need the maximum pain, the maximum expense, the maximum discomfort for you to appreciate that you're not following the model correctly? Because some of you, you're full of shit when you say, I got to learn how to trade with real money. That's the only way I can learn how to trade. No. What you're doing is you're saying that I'm a fucking idiot. Please beat me over the head with a stupid stick because I don't know enough to know that I can do this without any harm to myself, without any financial risk, without any kind of hardships that's going to cause me to second guess my own ability because of the fear of being wrong associated with money. That's the reality. Books aren't going to teach you that way. Mentors aren't going to teach you that way. It's sugar-free, as it should be. You want it to taste sweet like honey. And sugar is a disease causer. The more you can cut sugar out of your diet, the best you're going to have in terms of health. The same way with trading. You want meat and potatoes, baby. Meat and fucking potatoes. That's it. All this is you show up. By Larry Williams. You put the work in. Learn. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be fucking hard because you're wrestling yourself. But once you finally get past yourself and get out of your own fucking way, then you'll really start to learn. And you'll see that you've made it much more harder than it needs to be. Because it's all basically psychological. You're afraid of losing money. You're afraid of being wrong. You're afraid of failing. You're afraid of your fucking spouse or your coworkers or your family members, your friends to say, I told you it wasn't going to work. It's all a pipe dream. And some of you deep down inside, listen, folks, listen. It's going to get so hard that you're going to actually create the environment for that to happen. So that way it's ending all the pain. That short little momentary embarrassment around your family and friends, your coworkers. Yeah, I lost my fucking money. And you're right. It's fucking bullshit. Nobody's making money. It's all fucking fraud. It's a scam. It's all horseshit. Because you don't want to endure. Because it's hard wrestling with that feeling of, what would they think of me if I fail? Fuck that. Why are you even entertaining that shit? Listen, failure is a fucking choice. That's not a guarantee. Failure is a fucking choice. Setbacks, speed bumps, adversities, that's all part of this, like anything else. Anything worth doing is going to be fucking hard. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost time. It's going to cause you to have to put more effort into this than you've ever think anything you've ever done. Weak people don't survive in this industry. Unorganized, undisciplined, irresponsible motherfuckers do not stay in this business. You have to be an adult that is an independent thinker that understands there's real risk in this shit. You can lose your ass. And when you have this skill set, you're going to feel exactly what I feel. And some of you that are weaker and younger, you're going to do the same shit I did when I was 20-some years old. I was the biggest dick, the biggest prick there ever was. And you can hear it sometimes. It's still in me. That young man still likes to raise his head up once in a while. But the old man in me has to remind his ass, sit the hell down. But that humanity in me is still there. But you're going to feel what it feels like to know what you know. And nobody can take it away from you. Nobody can make you forget about it. They can't discount it. They can't say it doesn't work. Who gives a fuck how many people are going to doubt you? Listen, you start making $50,000 a fucking month. How many people will it take for you to be convinced that what you're doing is bullshit? How many people will it take for you to be convinced that you making over 6 figures every 6 fucking months consistently? How many people will it take for them to convince you that what you're doing is a waste of your fucking time? How many people does it take you to do that? There ain't enough. There ain't enough. And you're going to understand you're bulletproof. Who gives a fuck who likes you and doesn't like you? Who cares? Is it going to change how you sleep, where you sleep, how you eat, how you raise your children? No. What you do with your money is your fucking business. You don't owe anybody an explanation what the fuck you're going to do with your money. None. But they're all going to tell you what you should be doing with it, what you shouldn't have done with it. So don't even invite them into the conversation. You got to keep those types of people, which is the public, the social media fucking clowns. They're all going to pretend they know something better, and they ain't bringing shit to the discussion. To let them influence anything in your development is stupid. When I was a 20-year-old, knowing this stuff makes you feel immortal. Arrogance, pride. When you get older and you have a family and you lose family members, you lose children, that stuff weighs on you, and your view about how you keep score in life changes. It's not about how much money you make and how much you have in the bank. And I want to be able to know that I've done as much as I can within the scope of my capabilities. Because I don't claim to know how to teach the best way. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. I've prayed all the time because I know what it feels like for me to live like this. 50 years old. And 1,000 thoughts in my head all the time. And when I was younger, it was all violent thoughts. You would look at me and think, wow, this boy's quiet. He's so pleasant. He's well-mannered. But I had homicidal thoughts in my head all the time because I didn't want to be where I was. I felt uncomfortable, claustrophobic, pressure, anxious, not knowing that they were chemical imbalances. And how do you articulate that as a kid? You don't know how to. So you stay quiet, you say nothing. Too much emphasis is placed on image. And I don't want any of you as my students that become good at this fall victim to that stuff. You can go into it with all the right mindset like I did. All I care about is make $1,000 a month and I'll retire at 40. And then when you taste real money, real fast, that stuff changes you real easy. And then when you make it known to people around you, your friends and your family, and they bring in their views about what it is that you should be doing and how you should do this and do that. And they can't even make their bills. They can't even get their car fixed because they don't have enough money. And you're making what they earn in 4 months in a day. And they're going to tell you what you're supposed to be doing. And they get angry because you're not listening to them. How many times do you have to listen to that before you blow up in their face and tell them about themselves? That's what I did. And I wish I could go back in time and take it away. Because those words cut. Your family members, they love you. Your friends, they love you. But they're not going to love you doing better than them. That's a rare quality in a person. And some of you are going to experience that, unfortunately. So the best thing you can do is mind your own fucking business. And don't let anybody else mind yours. Meaning, don't talk about what you make. Don't talk about what you're doing. Don't plan on sharing what you're planning on doing. The only thing you're doing is inviting people that are not doing it, won't understand what you're doing. They don't have the capabilities to even pursue it, because if they did, they'd be doing it themselves. Proof of that, as soon as you tell them you're trading, oh, you're going to lose your ass. That's a pipe dream. They just communicated their view of it, which they adopted from somebody else because they've never done it. Ask anybody that's making money today if you should pursue what you're doing. Fucking right you should. Abso-fucking-lutely you should. Why is it taking you this fucking long? Why aren't you already fucking trading? That's the response you're going to get from people that are successful. Get the fuck in here and let's go. You're missing out. Let's go. They can't stop you from doing this, folks. Until they turn the markets completely off, they shut the show down completely, there is no way they're going to stop you from doing what I'm teaching you. There's no fucking way they can. That's the understanding you get. Once you see what it is I'm teaching you, there's no fucking way that they can stop you from doing this. There's no reason for you to fear it not working in the future. This is how the markets fucking work. How hard is that to understand? Like, this is it. This is the source. This is it. You're going right to where the rubber meets the road. Returns back to the fair value gap. Look for a pool liquidity on a 1 or 5 minute chart. 5 handles. Done. But what if it goes 30? Who gives a fuck? You're aiming for 5. 5. Okay? You're doing this to make money. You're not doing this to impress people on fucking social media. That's what some of you are you're more focused about that. That's the driver for you, because that gives you what? Significance. And I understand that wholeheartedly. Believe me, I understand that. But that is a pursuit that's wasted. You want to be making money. That's why you're here. You're not in here to impress anybody. You're here to make fucking money. And you can't make fucking money if you are not consistently doing the same things. And how do you do that? You have to have a goal. When you have that moment of astonishment where you can see these things before they happen, and you know where they're going to key up on, where the highs and lows are going to form, where the setups are going to form, and all you got to do is wait for the time of day when it's going to form. There's nothing that you can use in terms of words to describe it. It's that moment of what feels like real magic. It feels like all the planets aligned, like everything finally makes sense. And it's a weird epiphany that I still am always trying to find a way to articulate it, and I can't, because none of the words I could string together won't even come close. It feels like you can finally see it. The thing that you don't even know what you're looking for, which makes no sense. You listening to me right now, and I'm hearing my own words. It doesn't reach far enough. It doesn't, because it gives you a sense of empowerment that when you experience it and you start living it and you can see it repeating all the time, if you communicate the level of confidence you have in it, you're going to sound arrogant too. You're going to. And at some point, you're not going to give a fuck what people think, because you don't have time to explain it. And at 50 years old, I don't have time to explain it, okay? I don't have a way of explaining it where you're gonna have to experience it yourself. And some of you have been experiencing it. Students that have gone through mentorship, they have experienced it. They make real fucking money. They don't give a shit whether you believe them or not. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. None of that matters. Their life is completely and permanently fucking changed for the positive. They don't give a rat's ass. Who's making videos about what? Who's talking about what? They don't give a shit. When you start making money, be honest now. Who's going to be the one that gives a fuck what anybody else thinks when you start making bank? Name the person you're going to give a fuck about hearing from when you start making 6 figures a year. Who's going to be the person that's going to make you feel bad about doing that? Is there anybody you can name? Because chances are you're probably typing nobody. Yep, nobody. That's the person that's going to influence you. Because none of this is going to matter. Anybody's opinion about what you're doing when you're being successful matters not. And there's nothing wrong with living like that. Being successful is always going to have some measure of other people being angry that they couldn't do what you're doing. And now they've cultivated this mindset that if you can do it, you owe everybody else a piece of it. Because it's not fair. Equality. Here's the equality. I'm giving it to you for fucking free. You all have the same advantages. So do it. Do it. But once you get there, don't be stingy with it. Help other people. Do something nice for other people. I want to hear about that. I'm hoping that I've encouraged that type of mindset in all of you. And when you get to that point when you can afford to do things nice, you don't have to make a big show of it. I have people that are building hospitals in other countries. I have people that are building orphanages. All these things like that, to me and my family, when we see that type of stuff, that's incredible. That's stuff that really matters. Not, I bought a fucking Lamborghini, man, I had to pay cash for it, it's great. Fuck off. Clearly you can tell still at 50 years old, I am still immersed in this because it is me. Like, this is me. My wife says it all the time. It's like, this is you. This is like, we're small little pieces and extensions and peripherals to your trading. We're the small little extras in the play that is ICT. In the grocery store, we might be paying a lot more money for things today, but it's not a ruthless cutthroat business like trading is. There's nothing like this. And when you get involved in it, you're either going to fall in love with it and fall head over heels over it. Even if you're not profitable yet, you're still going to love it. If you feel that way, I'm going to tell you something. You are destined to do well in this. You have the very thing that's needed. That means the passion and the endearment for this industry. Because if you're a casual, just let me just dabble and see what happens. If I make money, great. If I don't, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. If you lose money and you feel like this is it, this is the worst thing that could ever happen, this decision you made was the worst thing you could have ever done for yourself, the trading is not for you. Because losing on trades or losing an account for a real trader That doesn't mean shit. That's just a speed bump. Now, I'm not discounting the fear, the regret, the remorse that you're going to feel if you blow your account. That's real. You have to come to terms with that. And you're going to feel that if you have monthly goals. When you first start out, you're going to think you got to figure it out. You're going to go faster, harder than you really should, sooner than you should. And you're going to have that same experience every one of us have had, regretting pushing too hard, trying to prove something, and you blow out. Let me tell you something. There ain't no shame in doing that. If you blow out, max loss day, blow your account, major drawdown, go into a tailspin, all of that shit is what we do. That's what this industry, that's the common denominator. You're going to lose eventually, but how much are you going to lose? If you push really hard and you try to do Olympic-sized feats and you blow the account, does that mean you suck as a trader? No. It just means that you were pushing really, really hard and you went beyond the thresholds that your account and your skill set could afford.
Who's your favorite artist?
His name is Alan Watts. Do you know him?
We think of present events as being caused by past events. And therefore, we tend to regard ourselves as the puppets of the past, as driven along by something that is always behind us. Now, to overcome this impression, it's very simple. You begin again with an experiment. Approach the world through your ears. If you shut your eyes and make contact with reality purely with your ears, and you will realize that the sounds you are hearing are all coming out of silence. You hear, and it fades away. Fades, 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 and finally disappears. It's a curious world, this, isn't it? Because you hear all the realities in it. The sounds, suddenly coming out of nothing. You don't see any reason for them to begin. They just appear, and then they echo away through the corridors of the mind, which we call memory. Now, if you open your eyes, it's a little harder to see this with your eyes because, unlike sounds, the eyes sound static. Or rather, they look static. Everything looks still to your eyes. But you must understand, the world you are looking at, say when you look at a light, that light is vibrating. All material things are vibrations, and they are vibrating at you now in the same way as the sound is vibrating on your ears. In other words, the present world that you see is a vibration coming just as the sound comes out of silence. The light is coming out of space. It's coming out of nothing straight at you now and echoing away into the past. So the course of time is really very much like the course of a ship in the ocean. Because here's the ship, you see, and it leaves behind it a wake. And the wake fades out, and that tells us where the ship has been. in just the same way as the past and our memory of the past tells us what we have done. But as we go back into the past, and we go back and back to prehistory, and we use all kinds of instruments and scientific methods for detecting what happened, we eventually reach a point where all record of the past fades away in just the same way as the wake of the ship. Now, the important thing to remember in this illustration is that the wake doesn't drive the ship any more than the tail wags the dog.
Yo, check it out. It's Great Corner Chef rocking with a Kill with a Dawn, you heard? You know what it is, man.
What I'm saying is I think this. I'm trying to share with you a certain style of life and an attitude to life and an insight. I've taken you on one side and said,
listen, kids, things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids, things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids, things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. There's a big deception going on, and you're involved in it, but I just thought you ought to know. I'm terribly puzzled about the way people go out of their way to disenjoy themselves. They take so much trouble about it. And all around, you have only to look, and you see this perfect passion for making the world look grisly. And it isn't only job builders and garage owners who do this kind of thing. It's also people who profess to be painters. They're actually using excrements for painting in Paris today, on the theory that the world is shot to pieces, and that since the artist is a representative of his times, he ought to show the times as they really are, as a social critic. So he makes the most weird. He paints Campbell's soup cans, and he makes music that shrieks and screams. He just goes out of his way to make it sound as ugly as he possibly can manage. And the ingenuity is about that is endless. Because that is the times. This is critical. See? Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. There's a big deception going on, and you're involved in it, but I just thought you ought to know it. Let's take the character of the Pied Piper, the person who brings you an invitation to dance. I say then, you see, there is going to be a dance this evening, and I would like you all to come. That's the spirit in which I invite you to a seminar. I am not inviting you in the spirit of saying, no, we're going to have to discuss some very grave matters, and you ought to be awake to all these things and arouse your social confidence. When you get through with all that, then what? When you get through with all that, then what? When you get through with feeding the hungry and clothing the naked, and we are making great strides with automation and technology in abolishing poverty totally, then what are we going to do? Then what are we going to do? Well, you see, if you've got all these people clothed and fed and so on, then they say, well, now what next? If you've got a kind of Quakerish state of mind, you don't know what to do. Well, feed and clothe somebody else. Get busy. But then, where is that leading? Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids. Things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. There's a big deception going on. And you're involved in it, but I just thought you ought to know it. Listen, kids, things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids, things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. Listen, kids, things aren't what they seem. Don't be fooled. There's a big deception going on, and you're involved in it, but I just thought you ought to know it.
The self has thus the capacity to abandon itself, to forget itself, to hide from itself, and thus to make the most completely convincing illusion, but in play. And so the activity, the creative activity of the Godhead in Hindus is called Leela, which means play. Play. Our word lilt is related to it, I think. But so also in the book of Proverbs, you will find a discourse being given by the divine wisdom. The Lord possessed me in the beginning of his ways before his works of old. Its delight was to rejoice, the King James Bible says, in the presence of God and with the sons of men. But the Hebrew translated rejoice says play. 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 Rejoice is a sort of dignified Elizabethan, but it says play. And St. Thomas, aware of this, said that the divine wisdom was above all to be compared with games, because games are played for their own sake, not for any ulterior motive.
Meaning wave, because music is everything.
And so that is a nice little tangle. If I put this in the language of Oriental philosophy and religion, it would be something like this. The Buddha said that wisdom must come only from the abandonment of selfish craving or desire. The Buddha said that wisdom must come only from the abandonment of selfish craving or desire. One who abandons that desire attains nirvana, which is supreme peace, liberation. Nirvana means in Sanskrit, blow out. That is, exhale the breath. Exhale the breath. The opposite, desire, is to breathe in. Now, if you breathe in and hold it, you lose your breath. But if you breathe out, it comes back to you. It comes back to you. The Buddha said that wisdom must come only from the abandonment of selfish craving or desire. The Buddha said that wisdom must come only from the abandonment of selfish craving or desire. So the principle here is If you want life, don't cling to it. Let go. Let go. But the problem is, if I desire not to desire, is that not already desire? How can I desire not to desire? How can I surrender myself when myself is precisely an urge to hold on, to cling to life, to continue to survive? To survive. To survive. The Buddha said that wisdom must come only from the abandonment of selfish craving or desire. The Buddha said that wisdom must come only from the abandonment of selfish craving or desire. I can see rationally that by clinging to myself, I may strangle myself. I may be like a person who has a bad habit, as a result of which he is committing suicide. And he knows that, but can't give it up, because the means of death are so sweet.
Monks used to keep skulls on their desks. And people nowadays think that was very morbid. Everything's falling apart. So don't try and stop it. When you're falling off a precipice, it doesn't do you any good to hang on to a rock that's falling with you. See? But everything is doing that. And so again, this is another case of our completely wasting our energy in trying to prevent the world from falling apart. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then you'll be able to do something interesting with the free energy. 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 Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. When the Hindu says everything is unreal, the Westerner reacts and says, no, you can't treat life as a dream. It's serious, it's real, it's for real. And what do you mean by that? And what do you mean by that? Well, how real do you want it to be? This is, in other words, everything, insofar as it's falling apart, everything is changing, it is like smoke. And we all feel that smoke has a lesser degree of reality than wood. It's an image of the evanescent, of the ghostly. So there's this idea the whole world is this mirage. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's only bad if you cling to it, if you try to lean on it. But if you don't lean on it, it's a grand illusion. So the word Maya means not only illusion, but it means art, it means magic, and it means creative power. So this is the big act. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then you'll be able to do something interesting with the free energy. With the free energy. With the free energy. Don't do it. And it's perhaps easier to feel the world in that way in a tropical country where death is very common, and where you just watch things dissolve before your eyes, and yet burst out and grow again. The whole world is changing. Maybe easier to think that way than in our environment. Although when you're out in California, the human landscape changes so fast that no town is the same for 2 years. Any mailing list that you have changes 1/3 addresses per annum. Nothing stays put. The hills are shadows and they flow from form to form and nothing stands.
It's a beautiful day to be alive here at the peak of recorded human civilization.
Akira.
He's got clout.
And what seems a good thing today turns out tomorrow to have been a disaster. What seemed in the moral and spiritual sphere too, like great virtues in times past, are easily seen today as hideous evil. Let's take, for example, the Inquisition. In its own day, among Catholics, the Holy Inquisition was regarded as we today regard the practice of psychiatry. You see, you feel that in curing a person of cancer, almost anything is justified. The most complex operation, the most weird surgery. People suspended for days and days on end on the end of tubes with X-ray penetration. Burning. People undergoing shock treatment. People locked in the colorless, monotonous corridors of mental institutions. In all good faith, they knew that witchcraft and heresy were terrible things. Awful plagues, imperiling people's souls forever and ever. So any means were justified to cure people of heresy. We don't change. We don't change. We're doing the same thing today, but under different names. We don't change. We're doing the same thing today, but under different names. We can look back at those people and see how evil that was. But we can't see it in ourselves. So therefore, beware of virtue. We don't. We're doing the same thing today, but under different names. We don't. We're doing the same thing today, under different names. We don't. We're doing the same thing today, but under different names. We don't. We're doing the same thing today, under different names. So therefore, beware of virtue. So therefore, beware of virtue.
This is Source Wave Radio by Akira the Dawn. You are listening to Flash Vibes.
We white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, British, German, American, have been on a rampage last 100 or more years to improve the world. To improve the world. We have given the benefits of our culture, our religion, our technology to everybody, except perhaps the Australian Aborigines. And we have insisted that they receive the benefits of our culture, even our political styles, our democracy. You better be democratic, or we'll shoot you. And having conferred these blessings all over the place, we wonder why everybody hates us. See, because sometimes doing good to others, and even doing good to oneself, is amazingly destructive, because it's full of conceit. How do you know what's good for other people? How do you know what's good for you? If you say you want to improve, you ought to know what's good for you. But obviously you don't. Because if you did, you would be improved. How do you know what's good for other people? How do you know what's good for you? If you say you want to improve, you ought to know what's good for you. But obviously you don't. Because if you did, you would be improved. So we don't know. It's like the problem of geneticists, which they face today. I went to a meeting of geneticists not so long ago where they gathered in a group of philosophers and theologians and said, now look here, we need help. We now are on the verge of figuring out how to breed any kind of human character we would want to have. We can give you saints, philosophers, scientists, great politicians, anything you want. Just tell us. What kind of human beings want we to be? So, I said, how will those of us who are genetically unregenerate make up our minds what genetically generate people might be? Because I'm afraid very much that our selection of virtues may not work. It may be like, for example, this new kind of high-yield grain, which is becoming ecologically destructive. When we interfere with the processes of nature and breed efficient plants and efficient animals, there's always some way in which we have to pay for it. And I can well see that eugenically produced human beings might be dreadful. We could have a plague of virtuous people. You realize that? Do you realize that? Any animal considered in itself is virtuous, does its thing, but in crowds they're awful. Like a crowd of ants or locusts on the rampage. They're all perfectly good animals, but it's just too much. I could imagine a perfectly pestiferous mass of 1 million saints. How do you know what's good for other people? How do you know what's good for you? If you say you want to improve, you ought to know what's good for you. But obviously you don't. Because if you did, you would be improved. How do you know what's good for other people? How do you know what's good for you? If you say you want to improve, you ought to know what's good for you. But obviously you don't. Because if you did, you would be improved.
That's the only thing you can do.
Just be sure that a vast variety of human beings is maintained. Don't please breed us down to a few excellent types. Excellent for what? Excellent for what? We never know how circumstances are going to change.